So back to the first question again. You're off to Belgrade now, back
Yes.
from Chios. Tell us a bit how that all came about.
Sure. So Distribute-Aid, an organisation that help organise and coordinate shipments of aid, containers full from Scotland, from the Netherlands, from Germany, and then help them go to where they're needed most, whether that is Calais or in Greece or in the Balkans. I've actually been on the receiving end of a few of the containers myself, so I've seen the benefits of the hard work that they've been doing. And they're now looking to expand quite a lot. The coronavirus pandemic has kind of forced them to, if anything, up their game, especially with Brexit approaching as well, customs duties, all of this aid being moved across Europe. There's a need for it at the moment. So they were looking to expand their operations and hire some new coordinators. So they put basically feelers out with all the organisations they work with, and it just so happened that my contract was finishing up at the same time. So sent them an email, and here I am now.
So do they deal with both like collections that grassroots groups do in various European countries?
Yes, they don't directly. They kind of leave the sort of gathering and sourcing of the donations to the sort of grassroots organisations. They more focus on simply getting the containers from, and what it is as well. Like if it's soap, where soap is most needed, whether it's in Calais or whether it's in Thessaloniki, then they are the people that know where it's needed most. So they can send it to the place that ultimately serves it the best purpose. Yeah.
So does it tend to work on is it led by the supply, what they've got, or is it led by demand of what is needed?
Kind of both. It's a mix of, as having worked in this field for over a year now, I've kind of realised that both parties, the suppliers and the receivers, kind of just have to work with what they're given. So I think it's kind of a bit of a difficult question because I haven't obviously worked there yet.
Okay, I'll ask you in 6 months' time. That would be a better thing to do, wouldn't it? Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, from what I know, it's like quite sort of just
organic, probably.
Yes. Yeah.
But it sounds like, as you say, it seems to me it's like the rest of this whole, the infrastructure around supporting the refugee crisis is kind of just growing up and developing as the kind of months go by, that people are getting more organised, and this is just another facet of that.
Yeah, it's just like outsourcing the logistics and the actual shipping to just another organisation. I think it really shows a drive towards professionalism. Like over the last 5 years.
And how long's your assignment going to be?
I don't really know yet. I've got 6 months minimum, hopefully. But if it all goes well and if I'm enjoying it, I might stay out for a year.
And this is
quite nice.
Belgrade this time?
Yes.
Ever been there before?
Nope. Dive in at the deep end, especially in winter. So heard it can be quite cold. But...
a bit different to Chios. Yes. And how does it work in terms of, do they provide you with accommodation and a living allowance, or how do you survive?
They've actually received a lot of money from Help Refugees over the last few months, which has allowed them to expand and hire new coordinators. So the deal that I'm signing up for is pretty much standard. It seems like a small stipend and free accommodation. So.
Cool. Let's talk a bit about Chios.
Okay.
Yeah, because how long were you there in the end?
4.5 months or so in the end.
Okay. And over that time you must have formed a view about what it was like there, what the conditions were like. tell me a bit about what it's like compared to, and
Sure.
particularly compared to what you've seen in Calais. This was your first
Yeah.
experience of a Greek island, and
Yeah. It's overall a very different setting. Like the demographics you're serving, the population, like they come from different countries as well. The people we mainly see on the Aegean Islands are predominantly Syrian or Palestinian or Afghanistani. In Calais, there's a right mix as well. Pakistanis as well made it to Calais and then hopefully to England. But on the Aegean Islands, it was a lot more sort of people immediately seeking shelter and seeking help, literally fleeing war and conflict. There are more women, more children. As about half of the people on Chios were men, which compared to Calais is like 95%.
yeah.
It was also a lot more sunny, which I think you could have imagined. But that makes so much more of a difference, an absolutely unbelievable amount. For starters, obviously, there's no need to be handing out like so many waterproof jackets. The need is for shorts instead. And people are more happy to wait for an item of clothing when it's sunny as opposed to when it's raining. So there are so many like small like adjustments which made the actual overall experience of distributing a lot fairer, a lot more, I don't want to use the word easier, but
No.
it was less difficult, maybe. And the option as well, everybody on the island was registered. All of our beneficiaries were registered out there. So we could see who had received items before, who hadn't. So from following that, we were then able to set up a free shop, which is completely impossible in Calais because you might see the same people come back 3 times in 1 hour, and then other people might not ever get served.
Yeah.
So there's
a completely different set of circumstances.
Yeah.
And were the people there? Had they all been there for a long time, or can't you analyze like that really?
No, it's quite hard. I don't know the actual statistic, but I think it's roughly like the average person was waiting like a year and a half in the first reception and identification centres there, whether that is on Chios or Lesbos or Samos. And then they finally get their interview, and if they are granted asylum, then they get transferred to the mainland. But that's after a year and a half typically of living in one of these camps. And then all they're doing is just being moved to a slightly less muddy camp on the mainland. It's changed quite a fair bit over the past few weeks. What in the aftermath of the Moria fire, there's a lot of need to move everybody off the islands for fear of it happening again. So we're seeing a lot of the population on the islands start to decline. The population on Lesbos has, I don't know if you've seen it or not, it's kind of fallen down to about 10,000 when it was at 25,000 back in February time. I don't
think I'd fully taken that on actually.
No.
But
there's the real like concern that other people might just start fires in their camps and then they try and get moved to the mainland. So
Chios has gone down as well.
Yes.
And still no arrivals, or very, very few?
Very, very few. In my entire time there were 2 boat landings. One was a bunch of Turkish people. So it's always a bit of a sort of hush-hush deal. Whenever Turkish people land, the Greek government tried to get them to the mainland as quick as possible. But one boat did actually land, and we weren't able to see them at all. The port police just took them straight to the reception and identification centre.
And did you get an impression of what the situation is for people who are trying to escape Turkey? Is it something you can talk about, or is it because I know there's some sensitivity over what has been happening in the Aegean.
Yeah. Like Turkish citizens trying to flee Turkey, or Syrians?
No, or yeah, so more,
yeah. Yeah, it's really hard to tell, obviously, because there's no new landings. So
yeah,
I
mean, they've just stopped.
I think the route has now maybe moved north, as in through the Balkans, and then trying to get to Croatia from that angle.
Okay.
But I think, yeah, I mean, Syrians as well, they've all been, something like 95% of them at the moment are being rejected for their asylum claims, as Syria is now viewed as a safe country by international standards. So
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah, this only happened a few weeks ago as well.
Okay.
So it seems as though the one potential aspect is that a lot of the Syrians on the Aegean Islands and on the mainland will be transported back to Turkey.
Yeah.
In a few months.
Yeah, they would be transported back to Turkey rather than back to Syria. And that it's.
I'm not sure on the exact process. You'd have to ask a lawyer, but it's certainly a drive to. Yeah, and if there's 2,000 Syrians living on Chios, then
yeah. And what was life like for you as a volunteer there?
Yes, I've already mentioned it was more sunny, but more sunny. It was overall a lot more fun. Calais was a port city. Calais is a port city. It's not exactly much going on there. And Chios, well, it has beaches. It's a Greek island. It's it's a lot more habitable, to say. Yeah, more fun to spend your time.
Were you in shared accommodation with other volunteers?
I lived with another coordinator. Yeah.
And are the volunteers from all over?
Yeah, roughly from the same sort of demographics, I suppose, as in Calais, like predominantly English or German. And then there's always like a few Americans as well. But at the moment, it seems a lot of like university students who can't go to university or doing their lectures online. So.
I spoke to James in Greece a few weeks ago, and he was saying that they've been inundated with applications.
Yes,
volunteers for that kind of very reason. People either not able to go to university or after university.
There's absolutely nothing for
experience. Yeah.
And we even had a few adults as well, actual adults, who obviously furloughed and didn't know what to do, or needed a career change or career break, or
And you talk about the demographics of the refugees and so on. Is there an opportunity for you to get to know people, or are you very much in a sort of volunteer bubble?
One of the projects that we started doing from our organisation was apartment activities. Some of the families are housed in UNHCR funded apartments. So sometimes on occasion we were able to go to these apartments and play a few games, preferably something like 3 times a week. I never went on them. I was chained to the warehouse as I was a warehouse manager, but that was an opportunity for some of the volunteers to get to know some of them a bit better.
Yeah. So you're for you, it's very much a job. I'm here to manage the warehouse, and actually that's not outward facing either, is it? It's you're dealing with the volunteers in the shop, so and the donors and what have you. So it
was very much a job for me, that sort of angle. It was a career step, a career path.
Interesting. We've made contact with a teacher at Borlase again recently.
Okay.
Do you remember Mr. Marchand?
I don't think so. I mean, I left 6-7 years ago. So
yeah, that's true. Actually, he could be quite recent, couldn't he? He doesn't live in Marlow, but he teaches, and I just come across him recently, and he's quite keen to help, facilitate raising awareness there again. So that's a really good opportunity for us. And particularly, you know, we just talked about the fact that they're, you know, as people leaving school are looking for what the next step might be, then, you know, volunteering has got to be a good option for building CV and so on.
Definitely.
And I think what you're doing is still really helpful for us as a group in terms of raising awareness and the kind of breadth that you're now bringing to the whole, the whole, you know, our understanding of the situation is really useful. It's really helpful. Yeah.
Sure. Can I have helped? Yeah.
Yeah.